Imagine waking up one day with a quiet but unsettling realization. The life you've been living may not actually be your own. Every decision you've made, every belief you hold, and even the desires that drive you, how many of them truly come from the deepest part of who you are? And how many have been shaped by the expectations of others, by the conditioning of society, and by unseen influences that have been quietly molding your path since the moment you were born? Take a moment and ask yourself, how much of your identity is a reflection of your authentic self, and how much of it is just a carefully constructed mask shaped by external pressures? We like to believe we are in control of our choices, that we are the authors of our own stories. But if you look closely, you may find that much of what you consider yourself has been inherited. The way you define success, the things you believe are worth pursuing, even the fears that whisper in the background of your mind, how much of it is truly yours? From the moment we enter the world, we are given names, identities, and predefined roles. We are taught what is acceptable and what is not, what is rewarded and what is punished. This process is so gradual, so subtle, that we rarely stop to question it. We grow into these roles, learning to play our parts convincingly, until one day we mistake the script for reality. Think about it. Have you ever felt like you were just playing a role, moving through life according to a script written not by you, but by your family, your culture, your past experiences? Have you ever questioned whether the way you live is truly in alignment with who you are, or if it's simply the safest, most socially accepted version of yourself? This isn't just a philosophical question. It's the foundation of one of Carl Jung's most profound insights. Life doesn't truly begin until you find yourself. But what does it mean to find yourself? Is it simply about gaining self-awareness, or is there something deeper, something far more transformative at play? Most people never ask these questions. They never stop to examine the invisible forces that shape their identity. And because of this, they spend their entire lives trapped, chasing goals they never truly chose, adopting values that never truly resonated, and wondering why, no matter what they achieve, something still feels missing. But you don't have to be one of those people, because today we are going to explore the hidden forces that shape your identity, the psychological barriers that keep most people from ever truly knowing themselves, and most importantly, the path to breaking free. And at the very end of this journey, we will uncover the final realization, the one that has the power to change not only how you see yourself, but how you engage with the world around you. Are you ready? Because once you see the truth, there is no going back. Carl Gustav Jung was not just another psychologist. He was a pioneer, a thinker who dared to look beyond conventional theories of the mind. While many psychologists of his time believed that mental well-being was simply about adapting to societal norms, Jung saw things differently. He believed that true psychological growth was not about fitting in, it was about becoming whole. He called this process individuation, the journey of integrating all parts of yourself, both the known and the hidden, to become the most authentic version of who you are. But here's the reality. Most people never take this journey. Instead, they remain trapped within a version of themselves that was shaped by external influences. They live according to expectations, rarely questioning whether the life they lead is truly their own. They seek validation from the outside world, believing that happiness comes from approval, success, or fitting in. And yet, deep down there is often a quiet unrest, a sense that something is missing, a feeling that no matter what they achieve, they are not truly at peace with themselves. Jung believed that this emptiness is a signal, a message from the unconscious mind, urging you to wake up, to stop running, and to begin the process of finding yourself. But before we can talk about what it truly means to find yourself, we must first understand what prevents most people from ever doing so. Because from the moment we are born, we are conditioned, we are given names, we are assigned identities, we are taught what is right and what is wrong. We are rewarded for certain behaviors and punished for others. This process is so gradual and so deeply ingrained that we rarely stop to question it. We adapt, we conform, and over time, we suppress parts of ourselves that don't align with the expectations placed upon us. Think back to your childhood. Were there moments when you expressed yourself freely, only to be met with disapproval? Perhaps you were told to be realistic. Maybe you were made to feel that certain emotions were too much, or that certain dreams were unrealistic and not practical. Slowly, without even realizing it, you began to hide parts of yourself. You learned to tuck them away where no one could see them. And in doing so, you started to build a mask, the socially acceptable version of yourself that would allow you to fit in. Jung called this mask the persona. The mask you wear versus the self you bury. The persona is the face we present to the world. It is what allows us to function in society, to navigate relationships, and to gain acceptance. But here's the problem. The more we identify with the mask, the more we lose touch with our real selves. We begin to believe that we are the persona, forgetting that there is something deeper beneath it. And the more we reject the parts of ourselves that don't fit within this mask, the more we push them into the shadow, a hidden reservoir of everything we suppress. So while the persona is what we show the world, the shadow is what we hide from it. It consists of the emotions we weren't allowed to express, the desires we were told were wrong, the fears we pretend don't exist, the strengths we were made to believe we didn't have. But here's where it gets even more profound. The shadow doesn't just disappear. It doesn't vanish simply because we refuse to look at it. Instead, it operates beneath the surface, influencing our thoughts, behaviors, and even our emotional reactions in ways we don't fully understand. And this is where the real journey begins. Because to find yourself, you must do something that most people are too afraid to do. You must confront the shadow. You must look into the depths of your unconscious and face what you have denied. And when you do, you will unlock a source of personal power, authenticity, and freedom that few ever experience. The question is, are you ready to take that step? Because what comes next will challenge everything you thought you knew about yourself. From the moment we are born, we begin the process of becoming someone, or at least someone that the world finds acceptable. We are given a name, an identity, and a set of rules to follow. We are taught what is good and what is bad, what is rewarded and what is punished. At first, we don't question any of this. We are children, absorbing everything around us like sponges, shaping our thoughts and behaviors based on how others respond to us. We learn quickly. Speaking too loudly might get us scolded. Crying too much might make others uncomfortable. Dreaming too big might invite ridicule. And so, little by little, we adjust. We adapt. We begin to wear a mask, a version of ourselves that fits within the expectations of the people around us. Jung called this the persona. At its core, the persona is not a bad thing. It allows us to navigate society, build relationships, and function in the world. But the problem arises when we become too attached to this mask, when we forget that it's just a role we play, not who we truly are. Because the more we mold ourselves to fit external expectations, the more we suppress the parts of us that don't conform. Think back to your childhood. Were you ever told to stop being so sensitive, to stop dreaming so much and be realistic, to suppress anger because it was inappropriate? Each time that happened, a piece of you was pushed into the shadows. You learned which aspects of yourself were acceptable and which ones needed to be hidden away. And as you grew older, you didn't just hide these parts of yourself, you forgot they even existed. The price of wearing a mask. By the time we reach adulthood, most of us have spent decades playing a role. We become the responsible worker, the loyal friend, the good son or daughter. We say the right things, behave in the right way, and rarely question whether the identity we've built is truly our own. We convince ourselves that this is who we are, but deep down, there are signs that something isn't right. You feel an unexplained emptiness, even when everything seems fine. You struggle with moments of anxiety, self-doubt, or insecurity without fully understanding why. You find yourself reacting strongly to certain people or situations, often in ways that surprise even you. These are not coincidences. They are signals from your unconscious mind, trying to tell you something. You have lost touch with your real self. And the more you ignore these signals, the louder they become. Many people, sensing this discomfort, look for ways to fill the void. Some chase success, believing that status or wealth will finally bring them fulfillment. Some lose themselves in distractions, social media, entertainment, endless busyness. Some seek validation, constantly looking for approval from others. But none of these things can solve the real problem, because the problem is not out there. It is within you. The truth is, you cannot live a truly fulfilling life if you are living it as someone else. And this is why Jung believed that true growth begins when you stop running, when you finally turn inward and face the parts of yourself that have been buried for so long. But before you can reclaim your real self, you must first understand the force that keeps most people from ever doing so. It is the part of you that you have been taught to ignore, the part of you that holds your deepest fears, your hidden desires, and even your untapped potential. Jung called this the shadow, and confronting it will change everything. If the persona is the mask we wear for the world, the shadow is what we hide from it. Carl Jung believed that within every person there exists a hidden self, a collection of thoughts, emotions, desires, and traits that have been rejected or suppressed over time. These are the parts of us that didn't fit into the image we were taught to present. The anger we were told was unacceptable, the sadness we were told to get over, the dreams that were laughed at, the instincts we ignored because they didn't match what others expected of us. But here's the problem. The shadow doesn't just disappear. Just because you refuse to look at something doesn't mean it ceases to exist. Instead, the shadow operates in the background, shaping your thoughts, behaviors, and emotions in ways you don't fully understand. Ever disliked someone intensely without knowing why? Ever felt triggered by someone's actions in a way that seemed disproportionate? Ever found yourself repeating patterns of self-sabotage despite knowing better? Jung believed that when certain qualities in others disturb us deeply, it is often because those very qualities exist within us, buried in our own shadow. This is known as projection, when we unconsciously transfer our own hidden traits onto others, blaming them for things we refuse to see in ourselves. For example, if you find yourself irritated by someone's arrogance, is it possible that you have repressed your own desire to be more confident? If you judge someone for being too emotional, could it be that you were once taught to suppress your own emotions? If you constantly fear being judged, is it because deep down you have not yet accepted yourself? Your shadow holds the parts of you that you've denied, ignored, or feared. But here's the paradox. Within that darkness also lies your greatest strength, the power of integrating the shadow. Jung's greatest insight was this: psychological growth is not about eliminating the shadow, it's about integrating it. To be truly free, you must stop running. You must face the things you've suppressed, the emotions you were told were too much, the ambitions you buried because they weren't realistic, the parts of you that didn't fit neatly into the role you were expected to play. Because the things you fear most about yourself do not make you weak, they make you complete. Think of a great historical figure, a philosopher, a leader, an artist. What made them stand out? It wasn't just their strengths, it was the fact that they embraced all of themselves. They did not hide from their emotions, desires, or imperfections. They faced them, learned from them, and used them as fuel. Jung believed that true power comes not from suppressing the shadow, but from making it conscious, from bringing light into the places we've been afraid to look. Because the parts of you that you've rejected are not your enemies. They are the missing pieces of your wholeness. And once you reclaim them, you unlock something most people never will: the ability to live as your true, unfiltered self. But there's a reason why so few people take this journey. Because facing yourself is uncomfortable. It requires you to confront long-held beliefs, question your fears, and sit with emotions you've spent years avoiding. Most people would rather distract themselves. They fill their days with noise, work, social media, entertainment, anything to avoid being alone with their thoughts. They chase external validation, hoping that success or approval will make them feel whole. They blame others rather than looking inward. But no matter how much you distract yourself, the shadow does not go away. It shows up in other ways. Through anxiety when your hidden fears surface, through self-sabotage when your unconscious mind resists change, through recurring struggles when old wounds remain unhealed. Until you face what is buried within, it will continue to control you from behind the scenes. But here's the incredible thing. The moment you stop running, you take back control. Imagine living without fear of judgment, speaking your truth without hesitation, making decisions based on what resonates with you, not on what others expect. This is what happens when you integrate your shadow. But how do you begin? Jung believed that one of the most powerful ways to access the unconscious is through symbols, dreams, and introspection. Pay attention to what triggers you. Your strongest emotional reactions often point to something unhealed within you. Observe your patterns. The struggles that repeat in your life are often trying to teach you something. Explore your dreams. Jung believed that the unconscious mind speaks through symbolism. Your dreams often contain messages from the parts of yourself that you've ignored. Write, create, express, art, journaling, music. Any form of self-expression allows you to explore parts of yourself that words alone cannot reach. But the most important step is simply this: awareness. The moment you begin questioning your thoughts, your beliefs, and your reactions, you are already on the path to transformation. Because here's the truth: most people go through life as strangers to themselves. They follow the paths laid out for them, never realizing they have the power to choose something different. They suppress their true nature, never realizing that their greatest strength lies in embracing all that they are. But you don't have to be one of those people. You have the power to break free, to step outside the illusions that have held you back, to shed the layers of conditioning and fear that have kept you from fully experiencing life. And once you do, you will realize something incredible. You were never truly lost, you were simply disconnected from yourself. And the journey of finding yourself is not about creating something new. It's about remembering who you've always been. Now, we move to the next stage of this journey. Why do most people never take this step? The answer lies in the psychological barriers that keep us stuck, the fear, the conditioning, and the unconscious mechanisms that prevent us from seeing the truth. This is what we will uncover next. If discovering your true self is the key to a meaningful life, why do so few people take this journey? Why do most people spend their lives chasing success, approval, or comfort, without ever questioning if those things align with who they really are? The answer is simple. It's easier to stay asleep. Most people never find themselves because they are trapped by three invisible barriers: fear of the unknown, the comfort of distraction, the illusion of certainty. 1. Fear of the unknown. Why we avoid looking inward. Human beings are wired to seek certainty, to prefer the familiar, even when it limits us. This is why people stay in unfulfilling jobs, toxic relationships, or self-destructive habits. Because the alternative, stepping into the unknown, is terrifying. Finding yourself requires you to face uncertainty. It requires you to question beliefs you've held for years. It forces you to sit with uncomfortable emotions. It means admitting that much of what you thought you knew about yourself was incomplete. And this is why most people avoid it. Instead of looking inward, they seek comfort in external validation. They follow predefined paths because it feels safer than creating their own. They define success based on what others admire, not what truly fulfills them. They suppress their deeper desires because acknowledging them would mean change, and change is uncomfortable. But here's the truth: growth only happens outside the comfort zone. And until you are willing to step into the unknown, until you are willing to face yourself, you will always feel that something is missing. 2. The comfort of distraction. Why we keep ourselves busy. Think about your daily life. How often do you sit in silence without any distractions? Most people avoid silence at all costs. They fill their time with social media, endless scrolling, consuming other people's lives instead of reflecting on their own. Entertainment, binge-watching, gaming, anything that keeps the mind occupied. Work and busyness, using productivity as an escape, convincing themselves they are too busy for self-reflection. This constant distraction is not accidental. It is a defense mechanism, a way to avoid facing deeper questions. Am I truly happy? Am I living in alignment with who I am? What am I afraid to confront within myself? Because if you take away all the distractions, What remains? Just you, facing the truth of who you are, and for many that is terrifying. But the irony is, the very thing we avoid, self-awareness, is what holds the key to our deepest fulfillment. The question is, are you willing to sit with yourself long enough to hear what your unconscious has been trying to tell you? 3. The illusion of certainty. The false sense of knowing. Yourself, most people believe they already know who they are. They define themselves by their name, job, culture, and past experiences. They have a set of beliefs they rarely question. They assume that their personality is fixed, that they are a finished product. But Jung, along with many great philosophers, understood something radical. The self is not static. It is not a fixed identity. It is something fluid, evolving, and far more complex than we realize. What if the version of you that you identify with right now is only a fraction of something much larger? What if the person you think you are is just a construct, a temporary identity shaped by past experiences, but not the full truth of who you can become? Jung believed that within every individual exists a hidden world, a vast and intricate inner landscape filled with forgotten memories, suppressed emotions, unacknowledged desires, untapped potential. And the key to true self-discovery is not in constructing a new identity, but in uncovering what has been buried within you. But before we can integrate these parts, we must first confront them, and this is where most people stop. Why facing yourself is so difficult to find yourself? You must first question everything. The beliefs you inherited, the fears you accepted as truth, the identity you have clung to for so long. But questioning yourself is uncomfortable. It requires admitting that some of your long-held beliefs might be wrong. Some of your fears are self-imposed limitations. Some of the things you thought defined you were never truly yours. And that level of self-examination requires courage. This is why most people avoid it. They would rather stick to what feels safe, even if it means living an unfulfilled life. But here's what Jung discovered. The parts of yourself that you refuse to face will continue to control you. Until you confront them, they will show up as self-doubt, manifest as self-sabotage, keep you stuck in the same cycles, repeating the same patterns. The good news? The moment you choose to stop running, the moment you decide to sit with discomfort instead of escaping it, the moment you become curious about your own mind, that is the moment real transformation begins. The choice, stay asleep or wake up. Most people will go their entire lives avoiding the work of self-discovery. They will seek comfort instead of truth. They will distract themselves instead of confronting what is buried. They will cling to the illusion of certainty instead of embracing growth. But you are not most people. If you have made it this far, it means something in you is ready. Ready to ask deeper questions. Ready to face the discomfort. Ready to step into the unknown. Because what lies on the other side is freedom, the ability to live as your true, unfiltered self, without fear, without masks, and without regrets. And in the next part of this journey, we will explore the hidden forces that shape your behavior without you realizing it, the archetypes buried within your unconscious mind. Once you understand them, you will never see yourself the same way again. If you have ever wondered why you are drawn to certain behaviors, why you repeat the same patterns, or why certain challenges seem to follow you through life, the answer may lie deeper than you think. Carl Jung believed that within every human being, there exist universal patterns of behavior and thought, deep-rooted psychological blueprints that influence our emotions, decisions, and relationships in ways we often do not fully understand. He called these archetypes. What are archetypes? Archetypes are ancient, collective images stored in what Jung called the collective unconscious, a level of the psyche shared by all human beings, inherited from the experiences of our ancestors. These archetypes shape the way we see ourselves, the roles we play in life, the way we navigate relationships and challenges. Think about the stories that have been told throughout history, the hero's journey, the wise mentor, the shadowy villain, the innocent child. These characters are not just fictional, they are psychological forces that exist within all of us. And whether we realize it or not, these archetypes are constantly at play in our lives. The hero and the shadow, the battle within you. One of the most well-known archetypes is the hero. The hero is the part of you that longs for purpose. It is the force that pushes you to grow, to overcome obstacles, and to become a greater version of yourself. But no hero exists without a challenge, and that challenge is often symbolized by another archetype, the shadow. The shadow represents the repressed and hidden aspects of the self, your fears, your weaknesses, and even your untapped potential. In myths, the hero must confront the shadow, often symbolized as a monster, an enemy, or a great challenge, before they can truly evolve. Now let's bring this into real life. Have you ever had a moment when you knew you needed to change, but something inside you resisted? A time when you had the opportunity to step into a greater version of yourself, but fear, doubt, or self-sabotage held you back? This is the battle between the hero and the shadow, playing out within you. Most people make the mistake of trying to suppress the shadow instead of understanding it, but Jung believed that true transformation happens when we integrate the shadow, not reject it. For example, if you struggle with self-doubt, instead of ignoring it, ask, where does this come from? Was it planted in you by past experiences, by societal expectations, by the voices of others? If you constantly fear failure, what is that fear protecting you from? What part of you believes you are not enough? If you find yourself envious of others, could that envy be revealing an aspect of yourself that you have neglected? Jung believed that our struggles are not weaknesses, they are messages from the unconscious. And the moment you start seeing them as lessons rather than obstacles, everything changes. Beyond the hero and shadow, the other archetypes at play. While the hero and the shadow are powerful forces, they are only a fraction of the archetypal forces that shape our identity. Here are a few other key archetypes Jung identified. The wise sage, the part of you that seeks wisdom, understanding, and deep truth. The rebel, outlaw, the force within you that resists authority and challenges convention. The caregiver, the aspect of you that nurtures, protects, and seeks to support others. The magician, the innovator, the creator, the one who transforms ideas into reality. The ruler, the part of you that seeks control, structure, and mastery over your world. At different points in your life, different archetypes become dominant. But here's the key. The more conscious you become of these archetypes, the more control you have over your own destiny. Because until you are aware of these forces, they will continue to shape your thoughts and behaviors without your permission. The anima and animus, balancing the masculine and feminine. Within one of Jung's most profound discoveries was that within every man exists a hidden feminine side, the anima, and within every woman exists a hidden masculine side, the animus. These energies are not about gender, they are about balance. The anima represents intuition, emotion, creativity, and deep connection with the unconscious. The animus represents logic, structure, discipline, and assertiveness. When these forces are in balance, you feel whole, but when they are out of balance, inner conflict arises. For example, a man who rejects his anima may struggle with expressing emotions, seeing vulnerability as a weakness. A woman who rejects her animus may struggle with asserting herself, feeling hesitant to take control of her own life. But when these energies are embraced, rather than suppressed, they become a source of immense strength. Jung believed that to find yourself, you must embrace all parts of yourself, the light and the dark, the masculine and the feminine, the known and the unknown. Because individuation, the process of becoming your true self, is not about becoming someone new. It is about becoming whole. What's next? The final revelation. Now that you understand the hidden forces shaping your identity, there is one final realization left to uncover. And it is perhaps the most powerful of all. Because the greatest obstacle to finding yourself is not just fear or self-doubt or external conditioning. It is something far deeper, something hidden in the very way we perceive reality itself. And in the next part, we are going to uncover that truth. What you are about to hear will challenge everything you thought you knew about yourself. And it may just change your life forever. Throughout this journey, we have explored the hidden forces shaping your identity, the masks you wear, the shadow you suppress, and the archetypes influencing your thoughts and behaviors. But now, we must confront the deepest illusion of all, the illusion of self. Because most people go through life assuming that their identity is fixed, that they are a single, unchanging self moving through time, shaped by memories and experiences. But Jung, along with many great philosophers and mystics, understood something radical. The self is not a static entity. It is fluid, ever-changing, and far greater than we have been led to believe. What if the version of yourself that you identify with right now is only a fragment of something much larger? What if the person you think you are is just one expression of a limitless consciousness, one that has been evolving for centuries, carrying within it the wisdom of generations? Jung explored this idea through the concept of the self, not the small ego-driven self that clings to labels and fears, but the true self, the totality of who you are beyond the illusions of identity. And this realization is both liberating and terrifying, because it means that everything you have believed yourself to be, all the fears, the limitations, the stories you tell yourself, is not the full truth. It is merely a construct, a framework built by the mind to give you a sense of stability. But the truth is, you are not a single, isolated being moving through life. You are a vast, interconnected field of consciousness, carrying within you the depth of the unconscious, the wisdom of your ancestors, the potential for transformation beyond imagination. But if this is true, then why do we feel so limited? Why do we experience suffering, doubt, and fear? The answer lies in one of the greatest traps of the mind: the ego, the great illusionist. The ego is not the enemy. It is simply the part of the mind that creates a sense of separation. It is the voice in your head that says, "This is who I am. This is who I am not. This is what I can and cannot do." It builds walls, defines borders, and keeps you tethered to familiar patterns. And while the ego serves a purpose, it helps you function in daily life, it is also the greatest obstacle to self-discovery. Because in truth, you are not limited to a single identity. You are a being in constant evolution. And the moment you stop clinging to the idea of who you think you are, you unlock infinite possibilities. How to break free from the illusion of self. Jung offered a path, one that requires courage, to question everything you thought you knew about yourself. Deep introspection, to face the unconscious forces shaping your reality. A willingness to surrender, to let go of outdated beliefs and step into the unknown. Here's how you begin. 1. Embrace the unknown. Most people fear the unknown because it represents uncertainty. But the unknown is where growth happens. It is where transformation occurs. The moment you stop resisting the mysteries within you and instead lean into them with curiosity, you begin to see the world and yourself with new eyes. 2. Release attachment to labels. You are not just your name, your job, your past experiences, your personality. You are something far beyond definition. When you let go of rigid identities, you create space for something greater to emerge. Because labels are not reality, they are simply mental constructs. And the moment you stop defining yourself by them, you begin to experience true freedom. 3. Listen to the unconscious, your dreams, instincts, deep intuitions. These are not random. They are messages from the deeper self, guiding you toward wholeness. The more you tune in, the more you will begin to recognize patterns, synchronicities, signs leading you toward your true path. Jung believed that the unconscious is always speaking to us, but we have been trained to ignore its messages. The moment you start paying attention, everything changes. 4. Surrender to the process. Finding yourself is not a destination. It is not something you achieve and then move on from. It is an ongoing journey, an unfolding of deeper and deeper layers of truth. And here's the ultimate realization: you were never truly lost. The self you have been seeking has been within you all along, waiting to be remembered. The final choice: stay in illusion or wake up. So now the question is, will you continue living as a fragment of who you truly are, bound by old fears and illusions? Or will you step forward into the unknown, embracing the vast, limitless being you were meant to become? Because life does not truly begin until you find yourself, and now you know the way. The journey continues. Although this chapter brings us to the core of Jung's philosophy, the journey does not end here. The final step is to apply this knowledge. How do we practically integrate the shadow? How do we consciously work with our archetypes? How do we move beyond theory and into real transformation? This is what we will explore in the final chapter, because knowledge is only power when it is applied, and the path to true freedom begins with action. At this point, you understand the hidden forces shaping your identity. You know about the persona, the mask you wear for the world. You've explored the shadow, the suppressed aspects of yourself that influence your thoughts and actions. You've uncovered the archetypes, the deep psychological forces guiding your behavior, and you've confronted the illusion of self, realizing that you are not a fixed identity, but a being in constant evolution. Now the question is, what do you do with this knowledge? Because understanding is only the first step. The real transformation happens when you apply it. Step 1. Face the shadow. Make the unconscious conscious. Jung believed that until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. This means that your greatest obstacles in life are not external, they are internal. The fears, self-doubt, and recurring struggles you experience are often just manifestations of the parts of yourself you have not yet integrated. How to face the shadow. Observe your triggers. Pay attention to what irritates, angers, or frustrates you in others. These reactions often reveal something hidden within yourself. Journal your emotional reactions. When you feel a strong emotion, ask yourself, where is this coming from? Is it truly about the situation, or does it stem from something deeper? Sit with discomfort. Instead of distracting yourself from difficult emotions, allow yourself to experience them fully. Ask, what is this emotion trying to teach me? The more you bring your shadow into awareness, the less power it has over you. And once you integrate it, you gain a level of self-mastery most people never achieve. Step 2. Identify the archetypes dominating your life. Every person is influenced by multiple archetypes, but some are stronger than others. Are you living as the hero, constantly seeking challenges and growth? Are you trapped in the caregiver, always prioritizing others while neglecting yourself? Are you guided by the rebel, resisting authority, but struggling with structure? How to work with archetypes. Study your dominant archetypes. Notice which ones play the biggest role in your life. How have they shaped your decisions, relationships, and struggles? Balance your archetypes. If you are stuck in one role, explore its opposite. For example, if you are overly logical, the ruler, try embracing creativity, the magician. Use archetypes to guide growth. Ask yourself, which archetype do I need more of in my life right now? If you lack confidence, embody the warrior. If you need wisdom, seek the sage. The more conscious you become of these patterns, the more control you have over your own evolution. Step 3. Break free from the illusion of self. Most people believe they are already fully formed, that their identity is fixed. But true self-discovery means realizing that you are not your past, your job, your fears, or your labels. How to free yourself from ego limitations. Challenge your self-concept. Ask yourself, who would I be if I weren't attached to my current identity? Release old stories. If you define yourself by past failures, mistakes, or limiting beliefs, rewrite your narrative. Your past does not dictate your future. Practice stillness. Sit in silence without distractions and simply observe your thoughts. This helps detach from the small ego and connect to your deeper self. When you break free from the illusion of a fixed self, you open yourself to infinite possibilities. Because you are not meant to be one thing forever, you are meant to evolve.